Now listen up.
Insights EDU 2025 is almost here. Join us February 12th through 14th in New Orleans for the most anticipated higher education marketing and enrollment management event of the year.
I like that.
Imagine 3 action-packed days filled with game-changing insights, real-world case studies, and a hands-on workshop designed to transform your marketing strategy and boost your program enrollment. Learn from speakers at Google, Meta, Reddit, MIQ Digital, and top schools across the nation. Network with industry leaders, exchange ideas, and discover the tools to drive real results. This is your opportunity to stay ahead of the competition and meet the demands of today's modern learners. Don't wait. Spots are filling fast. Mark your calendar, rally your team, and head to insightsedu.com to register now. The era of the modern learner is here, and you need to be part of it. We'll see you in New Orleans.
Do you want to accelerate your professional development? Do you want to get exclusive early access to ad-free episodes, extended episodes, bonus episodes, original content? That's right, original content, invites to special events, and more? Do you want to get all this while helping to sustain EdUp? Then go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com and subscribe today.
Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Dr. Joe Salustio back with you on another episode. And, I'm not going to soapbox today, which I tend to do sometimes, but I am going to just point out that if you don't follow, if we're not connected on LinkedIn, let's get connected. We have been putting out large amounts of content. Obviously, the podcast comes out like 3-4 times a week now. But beyond that, I write a weekly newsletter called EdUp, the EdUp Wrap-Up, where I take one of my conversations on the podcast, I transcribe the episode, I write an article, and I theme it with a movie, with some pictures to bring some pop culture in it so you don't get bored reading my articles. And that's the EdUp Wrap-Up. We just passed our year anniversary about 10 days ago of the EdUp Wrap-Up, and it's been, articles have been read almost 70,000 times, which I'm so proud to say, and thank you for your support. And of course, you know this by now, hopefully, because I've set it up like a bunch of times. If you want to say something, let me rephrase. If you want to write something about higher education and you want to publish that out to an audience, and you don't want to go through the normal channels, the journalistic publications that are out there, because you have to do word counts and do all this stuff and probably have to beg sometimes for them to publish your article, send us your stuff to edup@edupexperience.com. We have turned a part of our website into EdUp editorials, where we're using space to publish articles from people who want to write about good things happening in higher education. Maybe it's a new program launch that you have. Maybe it's a new initiative that you have at your college and you want to write an article about it. Send it to us. We're going to publish it, and we're going to put it out to the global EdUp Experience audience. And now I'll take a breath. And that's all I have to say on the self-promotion, gratuitous promotion angle. Let's get to our guest today. He's been waiting patiently, maybe rolled his eyes a few times as I spent so much time promoting myself. No, he didn't really do that. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is. He's Dr. David Tandberg. He is the president at Adams State University. David, welcome to an EdUp Mike. How are you?
Great. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for sitting there while I have to do that whole long intro on self-promotion. I appreciate you.
No worries. You got to do it.
Well, tell us, so we always like to level set with our audience, assuming that somebody hasn't heard of Adams State University before. Where are you located? Who do you serve? And how do you serve them? And give us the once over.
Yeah. So we're located in a rural, isolated area of Colorado. If you are right dead center in the state, about a half hour north of New Mexico, that's where we're at, in a little city called Alamosa, in the heart of the San Luis Valley, which is the highest arid, high mountain valley in the country. Actually, it's about 8,000 square miles, but very lightly populated, and is actually the oldest area of Colorado, being the original Mexican settlements were in the valley and the early Spanish explorers. So really unique area of Colorado in the country. We have two of the lowest income counties in the country, the 2 lowest in Colorado and 5 of the 10 lowest in Colorado, actually. And so, and the largest share of Hispanic people in the state. So from that heritage and the demographics in our location comes our mission, which is to serve as an access point for those who would otherwise likely not be served by higher ed. And we have the largest share of low-income students in the state, the largest share of Hispanic students. We're a majority minority institution, and we're essentially open access. You really just have to get a GED or graduate from high school, and we'll serve you. And we do a great job. I mean, like I said, we serve the largest share of students from the first income quintile, so from poverty. And we do better than any other university in the state at moving those students up 2 or more income quintiles. It's pretty powerful. That's essentially going from $17,000 household income to over 60. And given who we serve,
it's life-changing.
It's life-changing. It's generation-changing. We make the American dream a reality for those for whom it otherwise would have been a lie. If we weren't there, this wouldn't happen. And so we take great pride in that. Our graduation rates, they're somewhere in between a community college and a bigger university, which is kind of to be expected. But we're very much focused on providing opportunity. And once we do that, changing their lives. Those are the things we focus on.
Amazing.
I love it. In fact, I've been not on the campus of Adams State, but been to Alamosa and have a bunch of friends that graduated from Adams State, talk very highly about their experience. And I'm not a spring chicken, so it's many years ago. But obviously Adams State serving the Valley, and having 5 of the 10 worst income quartiles in the state of Colorado presents a host of challenges. Not only getting a student and keeping them, but educating the general populace that education is possible, which may seem completely impossible, right?
Yeah, that is our fight. We love it. It's why we're here. It's why we chose to work at Adams, to make the Valley our home. And, I think about the history of the San Luis Valley. It's a history of struggle. When Colorado decided they wanted to cut a straight line and have a nice rectangular state,
really,
they cut it right through the Valley, splitting families and farms, history and culture between New Mexico and Colorado. And the Colorado side became very Anglicanized by state leaders. They wouldn't translate anything into Spanish. They wouldn't recognize the historic property rights. And so, from the very founding of the San Luis Valley within Colorado, when it became part of the state, we've had these historic struggles of, resources, discrimination, isolation. And yet, the Valley has, over time, found a way to come together and collectively overcome the lack of resources to do tremendous things. And that's exactly what we do at Adams State. And so we have to put in the legwork to convince families, for the majority of you won't pay any tuition and fees at Adams State, and we send a letter to every senior at every single high school in the Valley. There's 14 of them, that says you're admitted to Adams State, whether they've applied or not, so that they know. So we're directly admitting them, basically saying, you plan to graduate, you've got a spot at Adams State. And that changes their perception, where they may have been thinking, I'm not college material.
I'm not going to get in. I'm not going to get into
And college. We're saying, yes, you are.
Yeah.
And you won't have to pay tuition and fees.
Right. So that's the Adams State promise, is it not?
Yep. The Adams promise and direct admissions.
Yeah, direct admissions is a game changer for so many students, because it gives them the confidence that it's the art of the possible, right? That this is really something I can look at. As you're talking, I wanted to bring up that in 2000, you received the HSI designation, which you were the first public university in Colorado, I think, to get it, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
And
so
you
we've
still, to
had
this
it
day,
for 26 years.
What's that?
Yeah, we've been in HSI for 26 years.
Yeah, 1998. Yep,
Yeah.
got the federal designation in 2000, and I found this bit on your website, and I wanted to read it and tell you what you think this really means. It says here, and Adams State, obviously, HSI is more than a designation. It's a continual, energizing mix of intentional actions that enhance the education and experience of all our students. It's not just a head count. It's the way our students count. I love that, by the way. Mm-hmm. How each person is treated with the same high level of respect, inclusion, and service, and how each person has an equal opportunity to grow and advance. When I was reading through your stuff, I was just like, wow, it's not head count. It's the way you count. And I think that's a designation difference, isn't it?
It is. You can get like you said, 1998, we got the federal designation as an HSI, which is cool, right? But it's
great.
Purely based on a percentage.
Yep.
You see more and more universities and colleges getting it every year, not necessarily because they did anything, but just natural demographic trends, right? And so there's something about being Hispanic-enrolling, which can get you the designation. And that's distinct from what I think of, and the folks here at Adams State think of as being Hispanic-serving. And that means focusing on each individual student. And I was just in a meeting with some faculty, and I was like, we've got to double down on what our superpower is. Our superpower is that we're small. Epic. And that we can give individual personalized attention to each and every student. And that matters personally for me because I'm an alum of Adams State. And it was that personalized attention that reframed my thinking about myself and my own potential. And that set me on this, really cool arc that brought me all the way back now to serve as president. It was that one-on-one, individualized, you as an individual matter attention.
It's I liked what you're saying there. In fact, I have a button for it.
I like that.
Because individualize is kind of like the not new word, but really important word, especially as we see artificial intelligence kind of rearing its head. And we still we tend to think technology, we need an individualized experience, we need something that's unique to us as individuals, and so on and so on. But so much of that individual experience still comes from the good old-fashioned interaction with human beings. And if you can do it, if you can differentiate and say, this is a differentiation for us. We are going to treat every individual as if they are the only person in the university or whatever, however you position it. That's a differentiator in today's world. To be able to add that human touch when everybody is looking at artificial intelligence is going to be a big difference maker, I think, for people that may be nervous to mess with the technology, don't want it, just want to talk to somebody. Don't you think?
I think it absolutely. I talk to lots of students, and we hold student panels, and we collect a lot of information and data from them. And over again, they cite individual faculty members as the difference maker in their college life. That is the most consistent thread through everything I've read and heard or discussed with students at Adams State. And it makes sense. I mean, I was a Pell Grant student, didn't perform well academically in high school, and no artificial intelligence was going to change my mind about myself. Right. It took a faculty member with a PhD and all of that to turn to me and say, you've got way more potential than you believe. And to give me the assistance I needed to actually start performing like I did. That's the story for so many of our students, so many of them, over 50% of first generation. We're, close to 50% Pell Grant. Similar for Hispanic students. For so many of them, their interactions with authority and institutions has always been negative until they come to Adams State. And
because, of course,
it
when they think
takes a
about
lot to
financial aid,
overcome
they
that.
think about the IRS, right? When they think about financial aid, they don't think about like aid. They think about paying taxes, and that becomes a whole nother.
Well, and the FAFSA debacle just reinforced all the negative stereotypes and assumptions around government, institutions, authority. I mean, made our job a bit harder for sure.
It did, didn't it?
Yeah.
And fuzzier and harder to see the results, all these things. I want to talk about simplification a little bit. You know, and I know that higher education has a tendency to overcomplicate things. And I'm saying it as nice as I can, by the way.
Yeah.
We like to involve everyone possible in every decision. We like to take our time to decide and so on. And so there can be layers upon layers upon layers of bureaucracy that's built up over time. When you serve a first-gen student, 50% of your population being first-gen, do you have active conversations on campus about simplifying, about eliminating complexity? Like, hey, I get the higher ed part of this, but that's not going to work for these students. So we need to think of new ways of doing things. Like how much does that first-gen experience push you at Adams State?
You just made the list.
Mark your calendars for Insights EDU 2025, February 12th through 14th. Insights EDU 2025 is the can't-miss higher education marketing and enrollment management conference of the year. We're taking over New Orleans with speakers from Google, Meta, Reddit, MIQ Digital, and top schools across the country. Discover how AI is transforming marketing and enrollment management, how to assess online program opportunities, and meet the demands of today's modern learner. Don't wait. Spots are going quickly. Register now at insightsedu.com. Welcome to the era of the modern learner.
Let's go.
Do you want to get exclusive early access to ad-free episodes, extended episodes, bonus episodes, original content, invites to special events, and more? Do you want to accelerate your professional development? Do you want to get all this while helping to sustain EdUp? Then go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com and become a subscriber today.
I love it. You know, I hired a new provost and a new vice president for student affairs. Told them I wanted them attached at the hip, and that they didn't need me to say that. They just naturally and are very focused on that first gen experience because they're both first gen students themselves, or we're first gen students themselves. And so we've gone after every resource, first gen designation, work groups, national work groups we can to figure out how to do better. And we are doing better. And, you know, I read a book called Bureaucratic Burden, and it really documented how intentionally and unintentionally we put barriers in front of those who were supposedly supposed to serve. And this is in government, it's in higher ed,
everywhere.
It's in K-12. Just documented how bureaucratic burden keeps people from accessing the opportunity that they're entitled to. And so we've been really deliberate at the executive level of looking at anything we can eliminate, any step, any form, any office visit, any phone call, any signature, that we can get out of the way for our students and our efforts to serve them. We've got a really long ways to go. Untangling universities is very difficult. But sometimes all it takes is just an individual going up and specifically serving the student, just taking care of stuff for them. And I get a list of either applicants, Adams State dropouts, or others that haven't registered for classes.
Right.
I get a list of 10 to 15 students that I call personally every week. And some of them pick up the phone, some don't. If they don't pick up the phone, I send them an email. But I'm amazed at the ones I talk to on the phone or via email. It's usually one little barrier one little thing that's keeping
Yikes.
them from taking that next step to enrolling, coming back, or registering for classes. And it takes me one email and it's solved. And we got to do more of that everywhere.
Yeah, like that's the whole art of the possible part. Again, when I know these stories, the students like, well, I lost my cell phone, I've got to buy a new one. And so I'm just going to have to start next term. And you're like, what does that have to do with you starting school? Come now. It's fine.
Yeah.
So there's this, sometimes what students will do, and this, is they use these barriers as a way to justify why they can't go to school in their own mind. And so until they talk to somebody that goes, well, that's not really a justification for you not to keep on going to school. That's what's in their mind. So it's that human touch that makes that difference, right? I mean, coming all the way back around to what we were talking about.
Yeah, it is. And it can, sometimes it's just a question they haven't had answered. Either they haven't tried, or they haven't gone to the right place, or they're getting the runaround, or they're just scared to show up in an office or make a phone call. More and more students are just unwilling to do that. It's scary for the younger generation. But one thing we did, and this was before I was ever at Adams in this capacity, was we created a one-stop. And there you can take care of your financial aid, you can get access to advising, you can get the business services so you can pay bills or get your refund check or anything, all in one place. So you just have to show up. There'll be someone there. You don't have to walk across campus. They'll take care of everything in one place. We put it in the student union building, so it's centrally located right across from the entrance to the cafeteria. And that's been great because the students walk in to get their meal and they're like, oh, you know what? I had that question. Hey, Jeff. And they all know Jeff. He sits there. He's the main guy. And he just takes care of it. It's been great.
Go into that a little bit for me. What does he do? Does Jeff get on Teams or Zoom and get, or run across campus, find out the person who can answer the question, bring them to the student or some kind of exchange?
So we have representation at the One Stop from all these different offices. So more often than not, Jeff just leans over his shoulder and says, hey, Greg, and they take care of it. Or Jeff just does it himself. Or he logs into the system and takes care of it through our information system, just does it right there for him. Or once in a while, it's making a phone call and saying, hey, I need to connect you. I'm helping the student right here. Can you talk to him? But the idea is we don't want them to have to run around campus because often they just won't do it.
I literally was just talking about this, last week to a group of Missouri admissions officers and registrars. And we were talking about the idea of a mapping. You have to map or blueprint a higher ed institution if you're a student. If I want to go talk to financial aid, I've got to find the building or find the person, and I've got to go through these other departments or through these other people sometimes to get to that one place I need to go.
And it's
everything
Byzantine.
else we do is not like that. When you order, I used Amazon as an example, but when you order something online, you don't have to call manufacturing to find out if it's been made. You don't have to call fulfillment to find out if they put it in the box. You don't have to call the postage area to find out if they put postage on it, right? You don't have to do that, but in higher ed you do, right? And it's I got to go here for admissions, here for financial aid. If I need to register, I got to go here. And I hear a lot of people talk about one-stop shops, and I've done it too. A solid one shop, and foundationally, the only way to do is to put a representative from every department in it. And I've often talked to people, and they're like, well, we leave, we don't put the registrar's team in there because they're over here. We have a finance person, but they're not financial aid, really. It's student accounts. And it's like, well, then you're going to have a student that needs financial aid, and you're right back to where you started in the first place. So either you staff it right or you don't. And that takes some commitment from people to staff it, to make sure they have people there, to make sure those people are on point and providing good customer service. What has this done for you? Has it helped with retention? Has it helped solve problems? What has it done anything culturally?
I think, I can't answer right now. Maybe the data and the studies are out there at Adams, whether it's improved graduation rates. I I can tell you it's improved the student experience. So I believe it's probably helped on the graduation rates.
Yeah.
And we have had to do that. Like from the key offices that it takes to enroll a student and then keep them there, we've had to have the representatives. So it's the budget office, we call it student business services, it's financial aid, it's admissions and advising. What's that?
You don't call it a bursar like other universities?
Gosh, yeah. And that's another problem. The language, the vocabulary,
Yes.
the mapping, the offices, how they connect, that's all foreign to a student.
Yeah.
So we tried to put them all there, call it the one stop. And, for each of those office representatives, the student business service guy, he has regular bursar responsibilities that he's doing if he's not immediately serving a student. So we haven't really taken capacity out of those offices. They're doing their job all day and they're serving students one-on-one, which they need to do anyways. It would just be at a different location. And the same with financial aid, the same with admissions and all that. And so it seems to work well. And there's always students there and they do a lot of cool stuff. They throw parties, they're playing music, they have a popcorn machine, they liven it up and make it as comfortable and natural for a student to walk up, because we do know these offices, these bureaucratic offices of authority are often quite scary. And so we try to make it look and feel the opposite.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
Yeah, when you call an Uber, you don't call Uber to see if your car's coming with wheels on it. It just shows up.
Does it have gas?
Yeah. Do I get in? Do I open the door? I mean, it is actually pretty insane when you think about how we haven't really evolved the way we speak about our business internally. We even speak siloed still about the way that we operate in higher ed. And as a rural serving institution, there are certain challenges that urban or suburban institutions don't have to face. Can you talk about the obstacles, daily, monthly, yearly, forever, that you have as a rural serving institution?
I mean, at a unit price, everything's more expensive for us.
Yeah.
We don't have the bargaining power or the economies of scale. And so, when we're contracting, when we're purchasing, we often pay a higher price per unit than, say, University of Colorado. And it's absurd, but that's the reality. And for a long time on our construction projects, and we put it out for bid, we'd get one bid. And we know who it was coming from, Alcon Construction here in Alamosa. That's not a good bargaining position for us, and we can't outsource much, because it just doesn't exist in our local community. And, and we have to do everything a big Research One university does on the business side. On the technology side, we have Blackboard. We need to support it. We have, the same kind of operating systems for the university and student information systems. Those all have to be implemented. They have to be staffed. And so it is, on the financial model side, we're expensive. But most funding formulas, state funding formulas, don't recognize that. And so when I was hired as the interim president, I was talking to the governor and talking about this, the cost of operating Adams State, the cost of serving students who have faced structural barriers their whole life. We have to have the resources to help them overcome those barriers. That's our job. That doesn't come cheap. And, and I was like, we need more money. That's the thing. We get 52% of our operating revenue comes from the state, and Colorado is 47th in the country. We're at the bottom for state funding for higher ed. Think of the position that puts Adams State, And I was like, we need more money. He's like, well, I need to do it for the other two small rural universities. And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, not a problem. And so we I talked to the presidents there. We formed a coalition and we went after what we called the Rural University Funding Request. And we got extra funding, several $1,000,000 each on top of the regular state funding for what the regular state funding formula would have given us. And it's just recognizing how much we mean to our local community and the cost of doing business.
Let's go.
I love it. Congratulations. And maybe this pulls on your background a little bit at SHIO and your public policy work. Can you talk about how that, for anybody that doesn't know, what is SHIO, if you would enlighten us, and how was your time there and how did it help prepare you for this gig?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think my observation, I've seen this in the literature, and I'm sure you would know, with all the presidents you've talked about, I'd be interested in your reaction. The role of a university president is being oriented more and more externally. You know, a lot of my work is fundraising. It's in Denver at the state level. It's a community work, community engagement, alumni engagement, working with local governments. And so, my arc, after I left Adams State, I went and did my PhD and master's at Penn State, and I studied state higher education policy and politics and finance. Then I went and worked for a governor doing that work and actually doing it, not studying it, for several years, and then was at Florida State University as a faculty member where I researched it and taught it at the graduate level before coming to SHIO. And SHIO, it's called the State Higher Education Executive Officers. So every state in the country has a chief higher ed officer, essentially, over the state system or the state coordinating board. And they do state higher education policy and finance work. And so I was working with SHIO, we're the membership association for them. We did original research, data collection, report writing, and then worked with our members to help them do their job better. And so then when I came to Adams, one of my big roles, obviously we get 52% of our funding from the state, is state level work and advocating for Adams State. I think, well, one, I really enjoy that work. I love it. I feel like I'm like a knight going to battle, right? To go fight for Adams State in Denver. And luckily it's a university and a cause that I feel and believe in deeply. So I love being an advocate for it. And I love, coming up with strategy. What's the narrative we're going to use this year to convince the state to give us more money? And so I think it was a good setup. There's a lot of areas of being a president that were really new to me and I've had to learn, and I may be good at, I may not be, but state finance and policy work is pretty natural.
What's one area when you went, man, it's a little bit different than I thought it would be? Athletics?
Yeah, I think, so I was an athlete when I was at Adams State. I ran cross country and track. I think that helped some. I think a lot, I had no idea how much of my time would be spent on capital infrastructure, facilities, buildings, plumbing, sewage.
All the auxiliary stuff. Yeah.
All the auxiliary, every building. I mean, it's, we're not a wealthy institution, and that means we got to get really creative on that side. I would say, we have our own police department. I didn't know anything about law enforcement.
Yeah.
And it was, I think it shouldn't have been, but it was a shock what it means to be the president of the university in a small community. I mean, you're all of a sudden just a public figure, and everyone's watching you and they know what you're doing. We live in the president's house. It's huge, big for Alamosa. It's a very big house, and everyone knows where it's at. Everyone knows we're in there. Those things for, Darren is a first generation Adams State graduate from the Valley, also Pell Grant. We're just very normal people, pretty private. We didn't entertain or anything. So being thrust into that public figure role for both of us has been a shock. We like it, like it's fun, but
Well, everybody knows where your house is, so one wrong decision.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yep.
But that is right.
And it's like
that's part of being in the public eye.
It is. And, we're not big alcohol drinkers or anything, didn't know anything about wine. And all of a sudden we're like having to pick out wines for entertaining and act like we know what we're talking about. And just all these little things that we're like, oh, whatever, we'll fake it till we make it,
Yeah, I mean, this wine has been pulled, hand-picked grapes that somebody stepped on into this bottle, and have a glass. I mean,
have a glass. We don't know what we're talking
like
about.
The other wine sitting right over here.
Yeah, that we picked up at the local Safeway.
That's what I would do too. Oh, that's funny. Well, I want to bring you back for a quick mini episode because I want to ask you a little bit more about public policy work. That is funny though, but you're right. All eyes are on you as a college or university president, and it's not just your students' eyes. It's parents of those students. If they're adult students, it's their spouses. It's also the business and industry that needs to be served in the area. Public-private partnerships are a huge part of what colleges and universities are doing these days to make sure you're serving the needs of the local community business-wise. How do you get students to stay in the Valley, right? Because it's not like, hey, let's train them and send them up to Denver or out to California. I want this business bachelor's degree student to start a business here in the Valley. How do you promote a loyalty to area?
Yeah, it matters a great deal. And, there's a few things that we've done, some successfully, some we'll see if they will be successful in time. In the Valley, we have 14 school districts, and 73% of the teachers and school administrators in those districts were educated at Adams State. And that's a huge point of pride. It means every single kid born in the Valley will be influenced by Adams State because they'll be taught multiple times by an Adams State graduate. Their principal probably went to Adams State, et cetera. It's a really powerful thing. But outside of that, and getting student teaching placements in the Valley is important. Growing our own in every single field.
Yeah.
We find if, like our nursing program, if we recruit and enroll a nursing student from the Valley and then get them their experience in the local hospital or clinic, they're almost guaranteed to stay in the Valley and stay there basically forever. We don't have quite as good success rate if we enroll a student from Denver or from Phoenix. We do okay, but they're more likely to either get a job immediately after graduating outside the Valley or work in the Valley for only a short time. But things we're doing is grow your own initiatives. Like we're doing that in nursing. We're going into middle schools and high schools and trying to recruit students and giving them assistance, real life experience in those with our nursing program, enroll them at Adams in nursing, and then put them out. We've been doing that in teacher ed for a long time. We find that we've got a pretty good thing going in accounting, actually, with the largest accounting firms, but also working in local government at the school district, where we're taking our accounting students and getting them internships in those areas.
Nice.
And our biggest accounting firm in the Valley, which is actually pretty big, Wall Smith Bateman, I think it's close to 70% of their accountants are from Adams. So those things are really important. We don't want a reputation, false or real, that we take Valley kids, we educate them, and then send them out the Valley. That's a narrative that we're parents and grandparents, they won't buy into that. And so we're doing the best we can to meet the workforce needs and keep people here after graduation.
That's great. Well, this has been outstanding, David. I thank you for your insights. We're going to bring you back real quickly for a subscriber-only part of the episode. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the one and only Dr. David Tandberg. He's the president at Adams State University. In fact, if you go down there, you'll find out where he lives.
It won't be hard.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've just ed-upped. Attention, higher ed leaders. Are you ready to transform your marketing and enrollment strategy? Don't miss Insights EDU, February 12th through 14th in New Orleans, the premier conference for higher education marketing and enrollment management. Spots are filling fast. Register now at insightsedu.com. Welcome to the era of the modern learner.
Let's go!
Do you want to get invites to special events? Do you want to get exclusive early access to ad-free episodes, extended episodes, bonus episodes, behind-the-scenes episodes, and original content? Do you want to accelerate your professional development? Then go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com and become a subscriber today.